feeling that you know, we need to get some quick wins quickly, but you can't get quick wins with co-production. The basis of this work is about relationships and trust and forging those, and that's what I've been beavering away at. And but understanding also that all you ever are in this space is a conduit for enabling, relationships to flourish at the local level, at the managerial level, and at the strategic level as well. And ideally, and I know that, we've been careful about words and language because it can get battered, but we've tried bantered around quite a lot, but we're trying really hard, genuinely, to see whether co-production can be a golden thread. I know you hate that word, Pam, because it's been used around too long, but that's we're saying, well, how do you make that real? Yeah, so that's what we're trying to do. So we are also, under the spotlight as well. We've been beavering away, especially over the last few months, trying to gather evidence um, around the work that we're doing. Um, there's a feeling that we are, making some inroads, and uh, I think the best way I can kind of, 'cause I often think visually, you see, and I saw that I can imagine like co-production being like, at the moment, like a wall, and everyone's talking about impact, aren't they? And so, you know, you can't always break that wall down by just a few stabs here and there. You're going to have to try and go by force to make the impact that you want. But eventually, if you keep going at it, you're going to make a few cracks, and eventually you're going to make a few holes in that wall. And I think, we've made a big hole in the wall, but we've got a long way to go, in my view, and and a good thing is that we're seeing people from the other side of the wall also helping, and so that's the key now, is to get momentum. One day it will be amazing to see, you know, with a city as big as ours, in this, to really see co-production genuinely as a default position. Anyway, I'm rambling on, but that's where I'm coming from anyway. Yeah.
Well, that's it. This is our space, isn't it? Like, this is a space for us to come together and ramble on,
Yeah.
about what we feel is important in order to share as much as we can. I've made notes there on what you've said around, the relationships and the language that's used, and Pam, your reaction to the golden thread comment. We have our own, over here, a lot of our what we originally termed engagement workers hate the term engagement. Language is so important, isn't it, for that shared understanding. I really like the analogy of the wall, and I think really for us, I think probably sort of how much further we are down the line. I think if you look at our work with children's social care, I would say that we've collectively dismantled the wall together, all stakeholders, and rebuilt it. Whereas, that's what we want to do for the SEND system now. That's what we want to do for our SEND services. And we feel like we've been banging on that wall for quite some time. And like you say, now we've made some chinks and we've got some light and we've got some people willing to do that. So now I guess we're at that stage where we're going to try and persuade them to dismantle that wall with us and rebuild it with us. So I like that. I also noticed as well that I did a rubbish job of pressing record because it didn't work, so I've stuck it on now. Sorry about that, everybody, but I'm sure I'll get better at these things as time goes on. So thank you, Lucky. So Pam.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Pam Armstrong. I'm parent care. I've got two daughters with ASD, and I also got ADHD and other. I always call it bits and pieces because it's never.
Like
it's always just bits and pieces. So I joined the forum. Oh, it's going to be about 6 years ago. And we was a new forum. The previous one stepped down, so we started afresh. And during that time, we did a lot of work on the co-production framework and charter. And I was like, don't want this document just to be another strategy that sits on the shelf. And it absolutely sat on the shelf for nearly a year until Lucky came along. And then we got together and we had discussions, and we couldn't change the document because it had been done. And I was like, no, we spent too much time on this document. What can we do from it? And kind of together we birthed the co-production training. It's the best way to kind of describe it, really. And it started off with kind of just me, Lucky, Anthony, our young person, and Gwyneth, our participation coordinator, and it's gradually grew. The teams grew, even to the point I was in a meeting last week, and we've actually got a couple of health colleagues now who want to come on board and be trainers, which we've been banging on the health door for quite a while.
Yeah.
But I think my persistence of nagging, because I haven't really, I'm in a really fortunate position that I can do that. Lucky can't because he works for the council. I can, I can nag people because I'm not paid by any of them because we're independent, so it's great. Um, and also, I think we got some social care coming on board as well, so it'll be quite a really rounded team, to be fair, in that way, because there's about four of us from the forum, I think, are trainers as well. So I think for me, our next steps, because I think we've had so much. I really feel like we've had a lot of success, considering where we started from with the language, people not knowing what co-production was, people not realising that there'd been a strategy and a charter for a year, even though their organisations had signed up to it. But now we're getting requests from the local area Senko consortiums wanting to do the co-production. We've done it online, we've done it in person, we do individual ones for bespoke, for certain groups. We're doing a cross section of commissioners in children's, adults, cross education, health and social care. So it'll be mixed commissioners, and also, I don't know if I told you this, Lucky, the practitioners as well in mental health. Yes.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Cracked that one the other day as well.
Brilliant. So good. Yeah.
That's been a real battle for the forum, mental health, trying to get them to actually even understand what co-production is. It's just a blur. They really think they're doing it, but they're really not. So that's the next kind of step. I took over as chair in June 23, like June 23, Lucky. It's nearly 2 years. Wow, that's just like shocking. As I said, we're independent, we're paid DFE, although that's up in the air for forums at the minute. That's a little bit scary. Um, we've got 8 committee members and Gwilym, who's our paid participation coordinator. We're all voluntary. So all this stuff that I do with Lucky is all voluntary, and I do it because it's so important. It's absolutely so important now that we start getting more parent carers on board, and we start going out, and we've done that through the working together documents as well, I think, which is something that we're also really proud of, because these are all firsts in Birmingham. All these things that we're doing, they're all firsts, not been done before, so it's quite good. And hopefully we've got 2 more of those 12 areas of concern getting signed off next week. So when the inspectors do come knocking on the door, we've hopefully got some of those off, and I think we're close to some of the others as well, to be fair. I mean, the difference is day and night to when the inspectors came 3 years ago to where we are now. It's absolute day and night. But yeah, me and Lucky are like, we've been described as an old married couple because we bicker. Sometimes it gets a little bit shirty.
Just sometimes, mostly.
Just,
Most times.
just sometimes you
Don't
get
we
a little
all
bit shirty.
sometimes?
Just sometimes. But generally it's me, I nag.
But that's, we need to, don't we? This is the thing. We know we've got so much to achieve. A couple of our team, myself and Nicola, came down to watch your training. It was fantastic. Like I say, Pam, there were so many different groups in that room, and getting health on board, getting mental health services on board, getting it out to education. I think these are all some of the challenges that we can talk about in this space as the time goes on, because it's hard. It's it isn't hard for us to get those services engaged with what we do, because they know us quite well in Blackpool now, and they're sort of involved and they'll come along. But like you say, to help them to understand what our definition of co-production actually is,
Yeah.
and we have that conversation quite a lot, and it's one of those things that we're trying to help the team communicate well as well, because what we don't want to do in our community of practices spaces is saying you're doing it wrong, we're doing it right. Everybody does it differently, don't they? And what we're saying is, this is our way, this is the way that we do it, and we think it works really, really well, so that's what we want to share. And it's challenging, isn't it, to do true co-production, and that relationship that you and Lucky have got, and that day-to-day working, that is where you get your good outcomes from. And when your inspection comes around, we've just had ours, and even though we still have significant areas to be looking at, the co-production was a really positive outcome of that inspection, and they could recognise that our families are closely involved in improving those services, which has got us a good outcome.
Yeah, I think co-production will be a highlight of ours. I mean, to go back to when we started 6 years ago, the authority's idea of co-production was bringing us in at sort of phase 6 and saying, "Oh yeah, it's been co-produced," and we'd be like, "No, no." So, it has took a lot of time, and I think, and I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but I think the last couple of years has really it's been a challenge.
Yeah.
Personally and professionally, it's been a challenge. But I think the relationships that the forum's made with the authorities is what is the turning point. I think we do have really good relationships. I have meetings with the head of Senna and the head of inclusion, and well, she's a director, every other week. So they're penciled in. We meet every other week to go through any issues. So it is absolutely those relationships. But I know in mental health, their idea of co-production is to call it co-creation. I'm like, no, we need to both have the same language. Co-creation is not co-production.
Yeah, the language is so important. Honestly, if I could have a ticker tape banner running through this space, and it would just keep saying relationships and language, relationships and language. But they're the two key things, aren't they?
Communication. That's my other bugbear.
Yeah.
Communication. But
Yeah. Yeah, it's this, that is the one major thing. If I could say, we've done co-production projects that have gone badly and we've had to abandon, and we've also done co-production activities that have gone really, really well. And the defining factor between the two has been the relationships. It's always in the relationships. If they commit to the space, and we commit to understanding the needs of everybody in the space, because Pam, it's really difficult, isn't it? And Kieran will probably agree as well, that if you're there to share your lived experience, but then you're actually, kind of a professional role as well, it's a difficult balance to play sometimes. I think the fact that you raised, Pam, that you're independent and you're not being paid. So for Kieran, you are being paid, and you're really having to learn that balance, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fairly still new in my role, so I'm still working out the balance between what I can say quickly and what I can't say quickly, because it's like that thing don't brightly on that feature, because you don't want to say so much that you offend someone, but you don't want to say too little that you don't get your point across. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're trying. That's one of the things that we do on the team is to develop the people who come and work with us from the community to understand that absolutely it's your role to say all of those things. You can say all of those things, but we can do it kindly. So we try very much not to focus on individual people, so it's not about that teacher didn't do that for me, or that consultant didn't do that for me. It's about what was the barrier to you getting what you needed, and how do we change that as a system in that space. Zilla is trying his hardest to get in here, bless. Hello, Zilla.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I can't get my headphones to work, and I can't find a private area, so I'm gonna have to keep logging off and on until I figure out why they're not working at all.
That's okay, don't worry. We're just to give you a very brief overview, we're just going around and doing very long introductions and talking about who we are and what we've done and where we are at the moment. I've talked about myself and Kieran have talked about what we've been doing in Blackpool. Sarah's very briefly talked about what they're doing in Furness and Westmoreland in Cumbria, but Sarah's actually moving house at 11 a.m. So the fact that she's here is amazing. So she's just in the background. Blackie and Pam have talked about what's going on in Birmingham. So we're just kind of moving around us all and having a chat about what we're doing. So if you're just in that flux space till don't worry. If it works eventually, that's amazing. We'll just keep chatting and hope you can get to it. Yeah, so there was just some I think we're all raising the same points, aren't we? And the sort of the same barriers and stuff. And Catherine, you're right at the beginning of yours, aren't you? In terms of, do you want to talk about where you are in for Blackburn?
Yeah, so I'd spent 26 years in early years, and yeah, I agree with everything that's just been said about co-production's really become this buzzword, hasn't it? And I think maybe even 3 years ago, we were saying, "Oh yeah, we've co-produced this and we've co-produced that." Doing probably I was saying, and guilty of saying that, what practitioners are probably doing now and writing it. We've co-produced, but now we know better. We can do it better, and I think that's like that makes me remain kind to probably the practitioners about where they are, because they're just behind us, aren't they? And I feel like we're learning, and you can only do the best with what you know, can't you, really? So I came into co-production in January 23, and I was asked to do a co-production charter, and I was asked to do it in 2 weeks. So Pam will be laughing. Anyway, so I got asked to go to the youth group and speak to them, and then in the afternoon basically go to like the parent carer forum and get it signed off. So I kind of thought anyway, so I already worked with our parent carer forum, and Pam, the parent carer forum for me are like the lifeline best friends. We could not do it, that partnership working. And I'd already built a relationship when I was up in early years, because through like doing local offer and putting our early years things on, I used to ask the parent carer forum, would they just look at it? Because we're quite corporate and we just use certain language, and so we'd already always thought to like consult, so we were already at that level and built that relationship. Anyway, so I spoke to them, and not like you two, where you like bickering. But I probably more got into trouble. So like, so I'd say, oh, I really want to do a great job. I just don't want to, like it's like really important, isn't it? And I just don't want to get it wrong. So actually, our parent carer forum have been absolutely amazing. They really, really support me, but they'll sometimes say, "Oh no, Kathy," and put me back in line, which I always go, and it causes me loads of stress because it hurts my feelings, because I just want to do a really good job. But we always, always, always end up with something much better, and they're always right. They're always right, because they are that voice of the parent carers, aren't they? And they can really see those things that we don't do and that we don't do well. So I don't know, I love them. But our parent carer forum, sadly, has come to an end. So they're just about to they're launching like who wants to be in the new parent carer forum. But I don't know, Pam, if you know, as it's Christina Cramsey. No, I think she's done some stuff, yeah. Anyway, so with the charter, I kind of thought, oh no, that's not the way to do it. So what I did is I spoke to some national agencies like Kids, Contact, can't think, Nason, spoke to them first and tried to build my understanding and awareness of co-production, because I thought I was aware really that maybe I didn't really know what I was doing. And then basically I just linked up with the parent carer forum and we set off doing it, and we decided quite early on that we got Maureen Morrison. Do you know Maureen Morris, Pam? She's got an OBE, but she was the ex-chair of the Parent Carer Forum. So we got her in as a consultant because I thought actually we'll probably bring bias to it. So we got her in as a consultant to lead the workshops, but we would do everything around that, and that was really good. So this works for us, but I don't know if I'd do it differently next time. But what Parent Carer Forum wanted us to do was meet separately with the parent carers, and then I did the work with the children and young people, and then we both did practitioners, and then we brought everybody together to do like a cross section of those together. So basically, we had 142 children and young people's voices. So I was trying to get from that 0 to 25 age group. So we did Portage Little Treasures groups, the young people services, right up to Blackburn College, the university. I did some mainstream, we had some autism groups, we had the specialist schools, we have a deaf village. So what we did is we did some group work individually with them, and then we did practitioner workshops where we invited 115. And then at the end of that, we did like a stakeholder expert group. So then we brought all the people who were like probably like the most enthusiastic and really passionate about it, across the children, practitioners, and parent carers. And then what we did is I just gave them all the feedback and said, this is all from the children and young people, the parents, the practitioners. And then from that, we then ended up with 6 themes. And our chart is probably, it's got a lot of words on. And because some areas they've just got communication, I don't know, action, they might have 6 words on, whereas ours has got big 6 themes, and then underneath it, what people would want to see under that. And I found it really hard, and I don't know if I'm sounding apologetic about it, that it is long, because I do worry how maybe other people view it. But the way I looked at it is like, just say, for example, I'd sat with Joel for an hour and a half, and he told me all the things that he'd found difficult and all the things that would help him going for if this had been different and if this had been different. I couldn't then take his words off that charter. I wanted Joel and every single person I'd spoke to look at that charter and think, I contributed to that. So ours is very wordy if you look at it. It's on the local offer. So that's one of the main things that we did. And then I'm probably at the point where we've done like a little A5 leaflet, and then I've got it showcased around the like our local authority headquarters, so at Duke Street. So you've got like probably 2,000 people in and out, like practitioners, parents, things like that. And then what I've done is I've just set up some send coffee mornings, and I've done that for the family hubs. So I've just started with them because that's my most familiar area as well. And what I've done is I've just invited them for coffee and cake. I've done it around the nursery sessions, so I'm there when they come out. And then just to share with them the local offer, because a lot of people still say we don't know what it is. So then I've got my laptop so I can show them, and I'd say to them, you know, it's not perfect, but it is really, it's got good information, but there is a way to feed back on it. So if you know, and I've explained how it would work. I've shown them Family Hub website, I've shown them Facebook pages, shared the charter with them, but really just like tried to get them up to open up about, it's been really casual about things for them. And to be honest, that makes me feel top of the world when I'm working with the families, because you feel like that through that listening, through that help, we're transforming things, aren't we? So that's where I'm currently up to. And then the other thing I'm looking at is all the education healthcare plans. So every month, just say they see 30, I think they saw 39 this month. I'm doing the follow-up phone calls with the families to say, or you know, how was it? I've done like a survey that they can do, but I've also I'm just ringing round them and talking to them about their experience. And then really weird is one of the families I spoke to the other day who just shared some of her challenges on the phone with me. I noticed that she'd posted on the Facebook because I'd shared something about family funding. And she said, "Oh, I don't know how to do this," and blah, blah, blah. So we're able to jump on and just say, "Oh, Lorraine, I spoke to you yesterday. I'll just meet up with you and then I can do this with you." Or I'll so then what I've done is I've got a parent champion because we've developed some of them. So the parent champions are going to go and do a home visit and they'll talk you through the family funding.
It's
That's
interesting,
good.
isn't it? Thanks, Catherine, about sort of how we practically go about co-producing and what comes from that. So for us, we're thinking about at this point, how do we continue what we do? So we've done co-production in exactly the same way that you have, and differently. We've done it in so many different ways. We've had our own advisory groups, and then representatives from each of those groups has come into a space with practitioners and commissioners, and we've sat and looked at all the feedback that we've got. And that's
Yeah.
predominantly for developing strategies. And there's that conversation, isn't it, around actually how useful is a strategy, as you said before, Pam. If you create a strategy or a document and it just sits on a shelf or in a you know, a virtual folder and you're not using it. So we're quite keen to make sure that we're pushing to be involved in the delivery of strategies as well as sort of creating the document, and then sort of how do we embed co-production into each of the teams. So having lived experience professionals sitting in those teams and working with them, so on an ongoing basis they, you know, they're part of their interview panels. There's a taking a stand meeting once a month where they're coming together with children's services and families to constantly talk about things that just, you know, aren't going well and could do with being improved. And we're expanding that across all children's services to include SEN now. So it's, I think we could probably have a whole session, couldn't we, looking at sort of the practicalities. How are we practically undergoing co-production? How are we maintaining co-production? And how are families able to stay engaged with the things that they've already started to influence? I think that's really interesting.
Sarah, one of the other things I was going to mention as well is like when we did this coffee morning and the you know, like the transformation and things. When the families were talking to me, it were like evident, like some were saying, oh, there's 6 of us living in a 2-bed house, the housing issues, there were just so much stuff going on. But one of the nice things that I've got is because I've got some of the family hub budget, I were able to give them £10 voucher for coming, which I think I didn't tell them about that and they didn't know about that. But it weren't until after the coffee morning that I thought actually, like, so if the mum and the dad came, they got £20 really, which was good. And then the other thing I'd done is whilst I'd done the coffee and cake, I just went to the cafe and just got them cheese and onion pie and beans and stuff like that. And I just think it's just like nourishing and understanding and just looking after them, like jumping up and making them a cup of tea and saying, no, just sit there, have a minute, and you know, this is your time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's,
And in
again,
January, I think that would probably like a really nice thing for them.
definitely.
Yeah.
That's I think another session we can probably have on the environment. How do you build that environment? How do you build that relationship? You know, we talked about the ticker tape going constantly across, reminding us of relationship and language all the time. The other one on there will be food. You know,
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, Zilla, go for it.
Hiya, sorry. Managed to figure out the headphones. On a practical, more of a practical note, Catherine, you know, you're gathering the feedback. How, like, is it qualitative, quantitative? How are you storing it? Is it, you know, is it
Yeah.
workshopping with post-it notes? Is it mind mapping? And then how are you, do you know what I mean? How
Yeah.
are you quantifying things, or are you just running with qualitative and
I think I've just done it really casual. So I've just
yeah,
put so I've done 6 sessions so far and I've got 25 adults, of which 5 is send dads. So I think that, that bit's good. And 21 children that I've seen. So, and then what I've done
from
is,
various forums,
yeah,
within
well, it's
various
only
groups.
from,
Yeah.
so what I've done is I've started like in early years. So I've started with the Family Hub nurseries.
Yeah.
And then what I'm doing is I'm just trialing that and seeing how that goes. And then from that, I might do some of the groups and different things, or I might do it once a term if families, but that's where my parent carer forum, I'd feedback with them. And then
Yeah.
what I've done is I've just captured the conversations, captured some of the issues. So, for example, about the housing issue, I'd really like that if I did some sort of a video or a case study, and then that went to housing. But I feel like our housing, like your housing, would already know what these issues are. But what I'd like them to do is probably see a video of the family and them showing what their house was like, because I think that would be more transformative than somebody seeing it in words. So, for example, like if I sit on the SEND board and people say, oh, this happened, that happened, that happened, you can hear it, but it's not very meaningful. I think things like videos or people talking about their lived experience is much, much better.
Is are you gathering feedback across sort of service? Sorry, have I muted myself? Across service delivery. So from a co-production perspective, is your role around lots of different areas, or is it specific? Like you're talking about with housing, there is it specific to SEND and housing? Is it specific to?
Yeah, I sit under SEND education.
Yeah.
So that's where I sit, but really it fits across health, social care. So, but there's different people who do different things. So like
Okay.
it's different to how Sarah has it in Blackpool.
Yeah.
But then we've got these SEND parent champions. So we've trained them through Quorum. They're really good. So then it's more that they can spread the word. So they're doing some coffee mornings as well. So
Yeah.
when they meet Tuesday, I'll go along to theirs.
You're gathering feedback on service delivery as well,
Yeah.
then? Yeah.
Yeah, and there was something I was going to mention that you asked.
Oh, the other thing I was going to ask about was the Facebook group. How do you manage that? Do you have to go
Oh,
through
so I don't,
corporate comms or?
Yeah, I don't manage that. So it's
Okay.
the Family Hub Facebook group.
Okay.
So all I do is just post on it. So I think to myself, well, if there's anything sent, so like when a family said, oh, I get this family funding, I just Googled it and then posted it on and said, are you send, have a look at this.
Okay, so and within your
And then
remit,
if
you're
I
allowed
do
to do that.
then if I do the post, if anybody comments on it, I get notified and look at that.
Yeah.
So my next bit as well, so like where I'm doing promotion in the coffee mornings, I'm thinking probably looking at the co-production training. So it'd be interesting to speak to Birmingham about what you've done. But one of the things that I have talked to my boss about is I'd like us to have a video for practitioners about how to work with SEND families, because there's lots of parent blaming. And I feel like sometimes I just want to say to the practitioners, you get paid to do this. This is that families lived, they have to do this every single day, and they're battling and pushing loads of stuff uphill. And I feel like a video is needed or some sort of animation to say, how do you work with SEND families who've got SEND trauma issues, SEND lived experience? And it's almost like they might say, oh, they spoke to me like this. So they're mad.
Yeah, there's a lot around
like...
there's a lot around having a trauma responsive service, isn't there? So there's so much we actually need to talk about. We haven't quite got through all the introductions. I think it would be really good, like if we could give you a minute, but then Zilla, if you could just introduce where you're from and where you're up to as a council, and then we've got a whole list of things that I think we could probably put on an agenda for future for this space going forward, and we can agree how often we want to meet and how we want to tackle and share that information about. We've got so many things, haven't we? Go on, Lachy, do you want to go in quickly?
Yeah, I'll be really quick because I'm mindful that time. Yes, so just on that last note you were saying, Catherine, what we've done over the last 8-9 months has done a huge amount of work around a new piece of work called with parent developing, working together. We're calling it working together to improve engagement and participation, and we're hoping to launch that on Friday at the Birmingham Parent Care Forum event that we're running as well. And so, yeah, that kind of tackles a lot of the things that you were saying about parental expectations, around some of those barriers, about some tips that we think parents, and also breaks down, exactly how parent carers in Birmingham said that they want to get engaged, why they want to get engaged, and what a good outcome would look like. So we're happy to share that as well if you
Yeah.
want.
So our straplines called Working Together to Get Things Right
Mm.
under the
Good, I
co-production
like it.
charter. Yeah.
Great. So Zilla, do you want to talk to us about your situation and where you're from, and then we'll leave the last couple of minutes to just deciding what we're going to do going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Liverpool City Council. So I started in post in December as SEND local offer coordinator, and I sit alongside my line manager, who was initially invited to this meeting, Alistair. He is co-production lead across early years and SEND, but he does quite a lot across the council actually. So from Liverpool City Council perspective, there's quite a bit of engagement with families, I believe anyway, but part of my role is to work direct, and Alistair certainly worked a lot with LivPAC, which is the Liverpool Parent Carer Forum, and there's a company called Kids, which is that do a lot of work, like an overarching organisation that do a lot of work with young people and children in the area and families with SCND, to sort of what we've got. So I'm relatively new to post, only a few weeks in, but what we've got on our local offer at the moment is like a YouTube video about co-producing. What was it that we did? See, now I'm on the spot with what video is actually about, but it is about co-producing, and what it was actually the local offer. There we go, my actual job. So co-producing the local offer and making it. So years ago it used to look a certain way, and now it's a lot more informative. There's still so much to do, and I think so that's why I think I've been drafted in or brought in a role, because I used to work at Cheshire West Local Authority, and I've actually invited Sarah, the SEND local offer coordinator, so into these meetings moving forward, because I worked. So let me start from my previous, really, which has informed this role. My a previous role that I used to work in was a community partner for SEND for the DWP, and also prior to that I worked on the Poverty Truth Commission, which was working with volunteers in the community in Cheshire West around their deprivation and their lived experience of poverty. So working as a project, it was as a huge co-production project over 2 years, where we worked directly with key decision makers and councillors from across the borough, so to improve sort of, and from that there was lots of things that happened, like you were talking about, Catherine and Sarah, about getting people with lived experience involved in like partnership boards or mental health wellbeing boards, SEND board, governance boards, etc. Housing. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on like that across Cheshire West, and I'm learning that there's bits and bobs going on in Liverpool. So from a co-production perspective, Alistair would have led a lot of those sorts of things. But for me, I'm going to be co-producing the local offer, if you like, moving forward. So everything that's on there, and keeping it all maintained, all up to date, going out and about into the community and asking for them to put what they've got, so create a listing for themselves and put what they've got to offer Liverpool on there. And then every June, Liverpool Parent Carer Forum, they have a big event called Local Offer Live, where all the professionals and sort of people who, third sector organisations, whatever, out there, they come together and sort of showcase what they do, really. So I think a lot of my role will be keeping everything up to date. If you look at Liverpool Local Offer website, it's a lot of information on there, so it's about condensing that and making it easy read. Lots of acronyms, lots of links that are broken. So I'll be doing a lot of work with our analytical tool that sits behind that, just to keep an overview and regularly ask our internally. So I'm doing some work now with health partners, so our social care partners, so the Disco, to look at the pages that they own. So we're trying to put ownership on in individual sort of departments, if you like, so education as well, taking the page owner from education, who owns like the SEND support page or the EHCP page, and looking at what sits behind those click buttons, if you like, and then reducing that to make it more family friendly, make it more parent friendly, and working with LivePack, which is our parent carer forum, directly, and youth groups as well. So I'm going to be working with our new participation strategy lead on the groups that she's already going to, and then just hearing, which is why I think I was asking you, Catherine, how are you gathering that feedback? Because for me, in my mind, I'm a primary school trained, and I've been Senko, and I've lots of different roles, kind of bringing those together. But I like for me organisation and process. And so how do I gather all that feedback? And well, I say that I like it, but I often work with just a million post-it notes and pages and pages of books with information and highlights. And I want to try and streamline the process. So I'm gathering all of that information and being able to use it moving forward to feed into governance boards in the local authority, and then bring people in from sort of outside, not just one voice, but lots of different voices as well.
So 2 things that might help you with that is, one, about your wording, is use Hemingway Editor app. So if you just Google search Hemingway Editor app, all you do is put all your text in there, and it'll give you the reading age, because generally they won't have a reading age above 8.
Yeah, that's yes.
So yeah, that's a really good one. And also,
it's an app.
There is an app, but also it's just on your Google. It's called the Hemingway Editor.
Yeah, that's great.
And then it'll shorten your sentences, but really your parent carer forum are amazing for that, because they know what. And then the other thing I'm going to mention.
Are you taking things to them? See, this is where I think it's
No,
happened previously.
Yeah, just book once a month meeting with, ask them if they've got time to do that, but just say, would you or go to the committee or whatever. Yeah, once a month do that. And then the other one I was going to mention is where you're doing all your books and your highlights and things like that. I'm a bit like that, but if you meet with your digital team, they'll show you things like whiteboard and what they're called, not Canva. There'll be some digital solutions that could help you, that'll create all the lists and things.
That's what I want, Microsoft Project, but we
can't
have that.
I would just come in there as well and just say, actually, if you're thinking about co-production, Zilla, the idea of, one of the projects that we've done through co-production in Blackpool is co-producing our local offer. So actually the difference between going and collecting feedback, actually that then the local offer isn't produced co-productively, and actually having those people with lived experience continually involved. So like Lackie and Pam working together on a daily basis. We have our parents and our young people working together with us on a daily basis. And our local offer lead is a lady called Erica Smith, who's fabulous. So she comes to all of our young people's groups and our parents groups consistently, because actually what we've found is once we've redesigned and co-produced that local offer together constantly, I mean, we've got so much stuff, Kieran, haven't we, for her? Yeah, we've got so much stuff that constantly needs to be updated and shared with her. And we carry on that process, don't we, Kieran, all the time?
Yeah, we do.
So we've also just been doing a co-production activity around the way the council gathers feedback. So our co-production team has co-produced with other services across the council to look at how we stop this sending out text messages and surveys, and how we move to actually having proper in-depth conversations and building trust with our families, so that feedback isn't just feedback, it's ongoing co-production. You know, we're actually having driving meaningful conversations, and that I think has been really quite a difficult piece of work to be done. It's a challenging thing, like you say, qualitative, quantitative. How do you draw that together? Actually, if we're embedding co-production into the council, you don't need to think, oh, who do I ask, where do I go, how do I gather that? They're there beside you every day, helping you with those decisions. And that's the point where you know you've reached such a true co-production. Really, we've only got 1 minute left, but Pam, do you want to come in really quickly, and then we'll briefly talk about what we might want to do going forward?
I was just going to say, regarding the feedback, in Birmingham, we had death by survey. Is what I called it, because it was just constant surveys, which aren't a bad thing, so long as you're providing the feedback then to the people that have provided you the feedback. And that was one, those actions. And I'm very much action focused. So if I'm going to fill you in some paperwork. I want to know what you're doing with it. So,
Yeah.
and I think that's something to always be really mindful of, and we're really mindful of that when we put out a survey from the forum. We're also doing a pins project. I don't know if you've heard, I don't know if anyone's doing that in their areas.
Yeah.
So we're out to 25
Yeah.
schools and which really built up some really good relationships with schools, with the heads. We've got 20 head teachers now that want to do the co-production training, which is unheard of, absolutely unheard of. But building up those relationships with the schools and the parent carers in the schools. So I think it's about the little projects, and we're just now going to be starting to do a lot of work with the family hubs. It's been a bit of a trial and error for the past 12 months or so, but we're getting there. So yeah, that was like our next big project, getting in with the doing the work with the family hubs. But yeah, feedback is really important, to give the feedback back.
Yeah.
Yes,
Can I ask you
I've
on that
done
one,
that.
Pam, about the training? What's the training? Is that something you guys have put together in Birmingham?
Yeah, myself and Lucky, I say birthday.
Is
Because
that
it
something
was,
are we allowed to have a look at that, or yeah?
Yeah, so there's two. So we offer co-production training as well, Zilla. So there's quite a lot of us, I think, moving towards doing co-production training. So for future meetings, there's lots of themes that have come up there now that I think we could probably think about what we want to cover and how we can make best use of the space. So I've put them in the chat. So there's co-production practicalities. How have we got started with co-production? What do our groups look like? What do our teams look like? How are they actually actively involved? There's value and payments. Ours are paid sessional workers, they're members of staff. Do you go down that route? What are the practicalities and the challenges with that? Or there's vouchers. Vouchers again are great, but actually there's a lot of negativity around using the vouchers as well, from a Blackpool perspective. There's language. There's the local offer. What does our local offer look like? Have we done co-production around it? How did that go? What did we do? I'm happy. We'd be happy to talk at length at that, because that was a big piece of work for us. Makeup of our teams, getting partners involved. There's quite a few of us have talked about getting health on board, getting education on board, getting everybody in the same room together, and how hard that is. There's training, co-production training. How do we deliver our training? What's involved in it? How is that growing and changing over time? And how are we promoting? Send information, how we're promoting what we're doing ourselves, how are we sharing this information with wider partners. So does anybody have a burning desire on our next session to be talking about anything in particular?
A local offer.
Yeah, so
I
would have said that local offer is actually one of our key things, isn't it? So actually we could spend our next session talking about how we've co-produced or developed our local offer, if we have done that, or what our challenges are around that, or what we might want to do next. Does everybody agree with that?
I agree.
Quite happy with that.
I'd
Brilliant.
I'd be interested as well to know about kind of the setup within the different areas, because obviously there's me and Lackey. Lackey's paid within the council, we're the PCF, and we do it voluntary. But then there's a couple of other professionals. But how do we kind of widen that to make it more substantial, and how do we get more people? Like, what does that look like within your local areas? I think
Yeah.
something.
I agree, Pam. I think it's really important, isn't it, to understand how all the SEND partnership is so vast, isn't it? It's really big. So how to get all of those people involved and constantly talking together is quite difficult. We find it quite difficult to hold people at the door and help them understand that we're not a consultation group. If they want to be involved, they have to step through the door and they have to commit long term, and we don't have the capacity to do that with them unless it's a commission project. So they might have to give us some money if they want to get involved with us, which is kind of cheeky. You want to come and speak to us, fine, pay us and we'll do it. So there's lots of challenges. So how often would you like to meet? Should we make this a monthly thing, a 6-weekly thing, a quarterly thing? I think it's quite a hot topic at the moment, isn't it? I would perhaps suggest maybe monthly to start with, and we could change it if we if we want to over time.
Yeah.
Are you happy with that? Right, are we okay with this time?
Yeah.
Monday
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah, earlier would be better for me, just because usually I go out at 10:30 to Bolton. But
Right.
yeah.
So if we did 9:30 till 10:30, are we all right with an hour? Do we think we need a bit more?
I might not be able to do 9:30 because I am little brothers.
Oh, right, okay.
Okay.
Right, so you might have, right, okay.
I could do late afternoon. I could do after half. I could do 1:30.
Yeah,
I could
can
do
everybody
that.
else do an afternoon?
Monday afternoon at 1:30.
Potentially, I think there's quite a few things that we've got already in our diaries for Mondays around co-production. But hopefully if we can dodge it and it it doesn't coincide, then
We could,
yeah, it
well,
could
we'll try
potentially
it.
work.
We'll try a few different time slots. If we go,
Yeah.
I'll go for an afternoon one for the next one. And we'll look at our local offer and whether we've co-produced it. If we've done that, how have we done that?
How successful is it?
And how successful it is. Yeah, are we happy with that for our next one?
Yeah. So just to let you know, the 17th and 24th are clear for the afternoon for me next month. If we could, in theory,
it's half-term week, isn't it?
Is
Yeah, it is on the. Is that the 24th? Is that a half
is it?
term
Okay.
week? Is it?
Yeah.
So
Late for
ours
us.
is on the 17th actually in Birmingham.
Yeah,
half
Oh,
term.
right, okay.
Yeah, 17th for
Oh,
us as
no,
well.
ours is 17th as well, actually. So we could
Yeah.
go with the 24th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, right. That's the day after my birthday, and it's my
Ah.
50th. So you have to be.
Is it? Wow. Well, girls, sing your voices. Thanks so much for
Excellent.
hosting it, Sarah. Yeah.
No
Yeah,
problem at
thank you.
all.
It's really exciting to be part of something like this.
Yeah, because
absolutely.
it's quite lonely, isn't it? You to have some support is really good, and just learning off each other, because we are all learning.
Excited to figure out what we're going to be doing and see where we go from here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
I won't be able to make the next one, sorry, but I'll send one of the team along.
Okay, and I think
Well,
we'll get a lot of that, won't
Yeah.
we? We've probably got another 2 or 3 local authorities that are interested in coming and joining space who couldn't make it today as well. So, all right, super, brilliant. Well, thank you for coming, everybody. That's absolutely wonderful. The space was recorded. I'll stop that now.